Got very good arms.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
It's not often a comic book really exceeds my expectations, but I'm going to give that to X-Corp from Tini Howard. My expectations really couldn't have been any lower, and wow, she surpassed them. This comic book is like nothing I've ever read before in my life, and that is not a compliment. I mean that in the worst possible way that you can imagine. This is worse than Children of the Atom #1, which I thought was putrid. X-Corp was always going to be a tough sell. It already seemed redundant with the Hellfire Corporation essentially kind of doing some of the things that are introduced here as far as what X-Corp is supposed to be doing. And then Tini Howard's the writer. You know, she's more into, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons, fantasy type things. Her doing some type of Wall Street-esque business thriller X-Men comic seemed like a bad fit, and it ended up being far worse than I could have imagined. I'm still shocked about what happened here. And there's some large-scale character assassination. Not that Monet was ever like the nicest character in the world, but they really missed the boat on this one. By they, I mean Tini Howard by a mile. I'm shocked that this is coming out of the X-Men office. Well, I'm not shocked because it's been trending downhill, but this is easily the very worst debut of anything since House of X Powers of 10. And there's been some clunkers, but X-Corp is a special kind of bad. That's all I got to say. I'm not even going to have time to really go into detail or even talk about the art. It's fine, but there's so much other stuff. I'm not even going to be able to talk about the walls upon walls of dialogue that you have to get through to read this damn comic and finish it, which is a chore, a tough chore at that, to actually get through. There's some specific stuff I got to get to. This is bad. So I'm giving it a 1.5 star comic because technically there is a plot here, which is more than I can say for some comics. I'm looking at you, Tom King. There's a few Batman comics that had no plot whatsoever. So at least this one had a plot. It has better than serviceable art. So let's get into the details of Tini Howard's massive misfire on X-Corp #1. I can't imagine anybody coming for a second serving of this comic book. To open with, we do get introduced to the co-CXOs of X-Corp, Angel, a.k.a. Warren Worthington, and Penance, a.k.a. Monet St. Croix. On the surface, perhaps these are good choices for this. Warren Worthington comes from a very successful business family. He's got a pretty good temperament for this. But right off the bat, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for Monet to be picked. Yes, she comes from an extremely successful, influential business family, but she's never really had interest in business. She also doesn't really have a temperament that would be right to be leading a business. She's kind of impulsive, has problems controlling herself. They're launching the X-Corp. They want it to be a big deal. They want it to grab headlines. So they're getting some commercials filmed, stuff like that. And then they have a big meeting with Charles Xavier, and he essentially explains to him the purpose of X-Corp. The pharmaceutical business is getting so big that Krakoa and the mutant nation need to expand their horizons into other business ventures. And he has tapped Angel and Penance to lead the operation. And this is very important business. But as I mentioned earlier, I remember something very similar to this coming up to the Hellfire Corporation, and they were going to do the legal and illegal portions of the business, but apparently they need X-Corp as well. Let's just get into the real problem of this comic book, and it is Penance. Penance is a diva. She always has been. That's part of her character trait, why she might not be the best fit for this. And there's certainly traits of that within this comic book, but never quite like her actual core personality. I think she's supposed to come across as like a no-nonsense, hard businesswoman, but she just comes across as a raging lunatic a lot of times. When they're done filming the commercial, she's dressing down the director. She's telling people to get her scones. She's just being completely rude to everybody, including Warren Worthington, who's supposed to be her co-leader in this adventure. And the thing that she was told that she needed to do from Charles Xavier was go out and recruit board members. They need to have a 5-person board. Obviously, those two are the first two members. And she starts going out and recruiting them. And why would anyone follow this absolutely insane person? When she goes out to recruit Jamie Madrox, she starts beating on his security team and some of his multiples, demanding that she gets to see Jamie, doesn't want to go through the protocol. She just starts hitting people. That's weird. When they're on this ship and she gets bad news that she doesn't like, she transforms into Penance and starts ripping the ship apart in a complete fit of rage, like an absolute lunatic. Why would anyone in their right mind that was being recruited by this person ever agree to do anything with them? She is absolutely insane. And another part, they find out the laboratory that Jamie Madrox and his multiples were operating is under attack and they're all dying. And she could care less. She's like, they're replaceable and we'll just leave them there to die. She had no compassion for any of the people that were dying, even if they are multiples of Jamie. Why would Charles Xavier pick this person to lead anything? She has a diva personality typically similar to Emma Frost, who is a problem as the leader of the Hellfire Gala as far as Charles Xavier is concerned. She's difficult to deal with. She likes to wield power. She's impulsive. Charles Xavier can read all these people's minds. He knows the personality traits and issues that Monet St. Croix has, and how that would translate to being a business leader. There's nobody in their right mind that would ever tab this psychotic woman to lead anything. Yet we're supposed to believe Charles Xavier, who's leading the mutant uprising on Krakoa, and leading the nation into sovereignty and is making all these key decisions, is just going to all of a sudden drop the ball with this character. And she is so out of character. Yes, she's got diva-like tendencies in this book, but they're so far removed from the history of this character and the character's personality that the character is essentially unrecognizable. It's like Tini Howard read a 3-sentence bio on the character's personality and decided that she could write Monet as the lead character in a book. And absolutely, she is the lead character. Warren Worthington takes a very, very noticeable backseat to this character. She is written so off, and she is so off-putting as the leader. You could never imagine anybody in their lifetime following this person. And that is the biggest problem. She was a strange choice to begin with. The execution is absolutely terrible, just as far as what she's supposed to be doing. And why would you tab Tini Howard to write this anyway? This is supposed to be like corporate espionage and the inner workings of corporate America and business dealings and stuff like this. There are several lawyers that write for Marvel and DC Comics. I'm certain that they have done business dealings. And if they didn't, they had to go through like business ethics and business law classes, and they might be able to do something with a premise like this. But Tini Howard is in so far over her head with this comic, it's not even funny. This is the most boring, putrid, asinine story I've ever read in my life. There's nothing interesting that ever happens. There's not one panel of fun in this entire goddamn comic. There's not one thing that happens that makes you want to smile or enjoy yourself. Even the Jamie Madrox stuff, and Jamie's written pretty well in character. It's off-putting just because he's there. I'll get to that part, but let's get to it right now. So she's been tasked with recruiting her board. Her first selection is Trinary. She goes to save Trinary, who has gone back to India. What are the X-Men editors doing referencing an X-Men Red issue like in this comic book? Do they not realize how putrid that run is? But her being here has to do with her time in X-Men Red and the Indian Mutant Defense Force, which is somehow not the worst thing that Tom Taylor introduced in that comic. That's how bad that was. But she goes there, she finds her, she saves her, she asks her what she's doing. She immediately lies to her. And she calls her on it. She goes, I know it's shit because I can read your mind. So the person that they're going to put on to the board of X-Corp lies to your face the first, in-person meeting while you're recruiting them. And apparently she's not even recruiting her. She's just going to offer the job. Why would Trinary be on the board of a major corporation? Sure, she can be the security tech person, the overall security person for X-Corp. Why would she be on the board? What's her business background? Why would she be a good person to be a voting member of a business like this? And certainly, why would you want to put somebody on your board that the first thing they did to you when you spoke to them after saving their life is lie to your face? That makes no sense whatsoever. So not only is Monet a bitch on wheels in this book, she's completely gullible and stupid. And then we have Jamie Madrox. When she meets him, she's in the Savage Lands. She's at the pharmaceutical laboratory that he's got up there with all those multiples. And she's trying to persuade him and recruit him to the board. This is what he has to say. I like it here. I get lots done. And I don't talk to anyone who I don't want to. It's the opposite of corporate life. Nothing's ever fulfilled me more. Why would Jamie Madrox ever consider joining this? He's never been happier. And plus, after this, he sees what a raging lunatic this woman is. So, Jamie and Warren, I guess, are the two characters that are kind of written in character. He's probably the most enjoyable thing about this comic, but not even he could say this. And, from his own words, there's no way he would ever consider joining this. There's some other stupid stuff in here, too. I guess this big launch, they're going to launch X-Corp. You think it's going to be this big press releases and maybe they're going public on Wall Street. I don't know. They're going to do some big launch. Well, they literally meant launch because their island that they work on launches. It's a spaceship. Solar powered at that. A solar powered island-sized spaceship. I think this is supposed to be cool. And I imagine there are a couple dozen people out there that when they saw that, they thought, oh, that's a really cool idea. It's derivative and it's stupid. Where the hell would you land this thing? And who would ever, in their right minds, ever let you fly an island over their airspace? Can you imagine how many planes you would kill with this thing? This is like a billion times bigger than a helicarrier. I think this is supposed to be the big reveal of something cool in this comic book. It far misses the mark. And the fact that it's solar powered, there's a lot of energy from the sun. Yes, I'll admit that. But we have no technology, not even technology being on Krakoa that we've been made aware of, that would actually be able to harness the sun to such a degree that you could create that much thrust and actually lift an island off the fucking ocean. And where would you land the damn thing? You'd only be able to land it in water. What if you had a malfunction while you were over Colorado? You imagine how many people you would kill? You couldn't land it anywhere. I know some people will like, oh, that was cool. If you say so, Chief. Real cool. This is stupid. There's also this really stupid ongoing, I think it's a joke. It feels like a gag. Where Trinary, she becomes a board member, but really she's just doing cybersecurity stuff. And she realizes there's malware in their system. And she's chit-chatting with the malware, and they're having a conversation. And she's trying to keep the malware like distracted, and then she finds out it's demanding money, but we can't, like, it's sentient malware, and they're just having conversations. Why doesn't she just get rid of it? Why would her powers preclude her from just removing the malware or the ransomware, whatever you want to call it? Is she not that powerful? It's supposed to be funny. There's nothing funny in here. Like, this joke wouldn't land in any comic, but it less so here, where there's no joy, there's nothing interesting happening, there's no fun to be had, and you get this stupid lame-ass joke, and it goes on from the moment that she puts on those stupid glasses, essentially into the last page. At one point, like, Jamie's telling her to flirt with the ransomware. Why is Tini Howard writing anything that has to do with technology or business? She should be writing like the Witches of X-Men, the Witches of Krakoa series or something like that. Something to do with magic or crap like that. So I guess that's part of what she's doing in Excalibur. There's certainly plenty of magic in Otherworld. And even there, she falls on her face. So she shouldn't be writing X-Men anyway. Whatever. That's neither here nor there. Let's not get into that one again. While she's doing all this board meeting stuff and we're getting these really stupid reveals, Warren Worthington is in Brazil. He's got a meeting with this business guy that I think we met in House of X Powers of 10. His name's Kol, and he was going to be helping them with their pharmaceuticals, getting them online and everything. He's like one of the humans that was helping them out. And he's decided that they're going to need to change their business arrangement. And Warren's like, well, the ink's already dry on the agreement. Can't really do that. And I don't know if he's blackmailing him. He's trying to coerce him into changing the terms of their agreement. And you can see here, throughout the part, he's smiling with this fake smile. And he certainly has a better mind and temperament for business. This is terribly boring. There's so much stupid jargon going on here that Tini Howard herself doesn't even know what she's trying to convey. And by the time you really get into the meat of this thing, you're so checked out of the story, I don't even remember what happened. I think that the laboratory in Savage Land that Jamie Madrox was working at is being sabotaged by this guy. I think his big threat his big blackmail is that they'll tell the world that the Krakoan laboratory in Savage Lands, caught on fire and they destroyed like a nature sanctuary. Ooh, what a blackmail. Like, whatever. And then at the end, for some reason, Monet, instead of going and saving the laboratory in Savage Lands, just decides to come here with no notice. Warren doesn't ask for her help. He's still negotiating. It does look like it might not be going his way, but he's got fucking wings. He can fly away whenever he wants. So it's kind of like stupid that she would even show up here in someone else's airspace, unannounced. No one's ever seen this thing before. Like, they're not going to get shot to shit immediately. And once you fly your island over someone else's airspace without their permission, you're the bad guy. I guess Tini Howard doesn't really know about airspace and protecting it and whatever. She doesn't know anything about X-Men. That's the real problem. That's the problem that we should be talking about. But that's the stupid save at the end, is that this stupid flying island shows up in Brazil to save Warren Worthington, who could have flown himself right out of there if he wanted to. This is a putrid comic. You will be inundated by walls of inane, nondescript, jargon-filled dialogue that means absolutely nothing. They need to create a job called the Gister. And the Gister comes over Tini Howard's script, and he says, it's time to get these characters to get to the fucking gist and stop talking so much about just stupid shit that is just completely distracting, and nobody even knows what the hell's happened with the story by the end. Like I said, this is worse than Children of the Atom #1. It's worse than Children of the Atom #2. This is a 1.5 star comic only because there's somewhat of a recognizable plot here and the art's fine. The X-Men line is just trending down, down, down. Obviously, Way of X was an outlier. That was a really good launch. That could go off the rails quite badly, but it will never be written this badly. That's the real problem here. You have someone who has no understanding of business, someone who has no understanding of technology, someone who seemingly has no understanding of leadership and how to get people to follow you and the traits that you would need for people to really want to jump in on your team when it was against their own self-interest, which it certainly was for Jamie Madrox. It's just whatever. Nothing makes any sense in this comic book. This is awful. Don't read it. If you paid for it, see if you can go back to your shop and be like, hey, listen, I did not open it. Can I get a refund? I want a comic book worth reading because this is awful. I cannot believe how far X-Men has dropped since House of X Powers 10. It's unfathomable. Unfathomable. Unfathomable.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.